What if Germany had won in World War II in 1945? With this alternate USA presidential elections, European highman, Germany would have equalized large swaths of Europe, including Scandinavia, the British Isles, and parts of the Soviet Union. Eastern Europe would have been clear of local population to create living space for German settlers. Global division. The planet would likely have been divided into mass communist spheres of influence. While Germany controlled Europe and Africa, the Germany's Europe would have dominated Asia, and the Americans might have been isolated, heavily militarized, and cut off from global trade. Collapse and restraint. The result, Nazi empire would likely have been unstable. Economy depend on employment and slave labor. The regime would have struggled to transform to a stable peacetime economy. Furthermore, a fast occupation of Europe would have faced consistent bloody, paranoid results and quality welfare. So now that we got in on to what would have actually happened, now let's jump in on how it would change USA presidential elections. It's likely that 1948 would have stayed the same, but every other election from 1952 to 2028 would change. 1948 USA election, Truman Barkley vs. Dewey Warren vs. Foreman Light. Thomas Dewey was able to win in 1948 with 352 electoral votes. With the Cold War coming to an end in 1949 and the Korean War and social welfare and aftermath of post-war inflation, Thomas Dewey gets heavily criticized, with its approval rating bottoming out at just 35%. Dewey still runs for re-election and gets the Republican nomination. The Democrats would have likely gone with S.D.'s Kefauver. As without Truman's endorsement in the Democratic Party, it's likely Adolf Clinton would not have ran. 1952 USA election. Dewey 1952 USA election. Thomas E. Dewey and Warren vs. Kefauver Kennedy. S.D.'s Kefauver was able to win in 1952. The unrest and social welfare would come to an end in about early 1956, and he would create the Instiller highway system, just like in real life. 1956 USA election, Kefauver Kennedy vs. Eisenhower Nixon. Dwight D. Eisenhower was able to win in 1956 due to his broad popularity as a war hero. Even though that Germany won World War II and Eisenhower was part of America, Eisenhower was still pretty popular. Let's get on to Eisenhower's first presidential term. In his first year, Eisenhower would be able to withdraw all the troops from Korea and lower taxes and reducing regulation. He is running for re-election in 1960. 1960 USA election, Kennedy Johnson vs. Eisenhower Nixon. Dwight David Eisenhower gets re-elected in 1960 with 319 electoral votes. The Battle of Pigs and Fiction would probably be much more successful than in real life, as in this timeline, Castro would just flee from Cuba, and the Battle of Pigs and Fiction would be way more successful than in real life. Eisenhower would have similar views to JFK in this timeline, and he would call himself more of hawkish when it comes to dealing with foreign communists, and he would sign the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And there's high doubt that Ike would be assassinated like JFK in 1963, just a year before signing the Civil Rights Act. The Democrats in 1954 nominates LBJ, and he still nominates Hewlett Humphrey. Let's see how this election plays out. 1964 U.S.A. election. LBJ Humphrey vs. Nixon Romney. Richard Nixon is able to win in 1964. Not much to say about his presidency. He is running for re-election in 1968. 1968 USA election. Romney Lodge Jr. vs. McGovern Shriver. George McGovern wins in 1972 because people are tired of 16 years of conservative Republican leadership. It was the main reason for McGovern's win. In 1973, after McGovern is sworn into office, he lowers taxes. In 1973, there would be a bit of stagflation, and gases would become a bit more expensive, and cars would also get more expensive. McGovern is still pretty popular. 1976 USA election. Schweinegor-Nixon vs. McGovern-Shriver. George McGovern wins re-election in 1976. In 1978, the Operation Eagle Claws and the Atlanta Revolution would likely still occur. And in 1979, the hostage-Iran crisis happens, and 9/11 happens during the hostage-Iran crisis. 1980 USA election, Reagan-Schweineuer vs. Shriver-Kennedy. Ronald Reagan wins in a landslide with 386 electoral votes. Reagan would pretty much stay the same in this alternate universe. Continuing on the Reagan Revolution and Reaganomics. In 1982, the Republicans easily win the midterms as Reagan is able to kill Osama bin Laden that year. However, by 1983, people are giving questions about his health and age. But Reagan is still popular. 1984 USA election. Falardo Atwater vs. Reagan-Schweineuer. Ronald Reagan wins re-election in 1984. In 1988, after a successful two-term Reagan term, Republicans nominate Reagan's Vice President Richard Schweineuer. He nominates Jack Kemp. Richard Schweineuer would campaign on continuing Reagan's policies, legacies, and agenda. Democrats go with Geraldine Falardo in 1988, and she goes with Michael Dukakis. 1988 USA election, Falardo Dukakis vs. Schweineuer-Kemp. Richard Schweineuer wins every state except for D.C., New York, Falardo's home state, and Massachusetts, Dukakis' home state. He would have a very good presidential term in office. He would fail to continue on Reagan's agenda, but he would continue on Reagan's legacy and policies. The Operation of Desert Storm in 1991, just like in real life, would still likely occur, and the Persian Gulf War would also still happen. 1992 USA election, Biden-Gore vs. Schweineuer-Kemp. Joe Biden wins in 1992. 1996 USA election, Biden-Gore vs. George Floyd. Joe Biden wins re-election easily, even winning states, flipping states like Wisconsin, Michigan, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Vermont, Indiana, and North Carolina. Joe Biden would have a very good second term. The Republicans win the House and Senate in the 1998 midterms. But people accuse the Republicans of stuffing ballot boxes to win the House and Senate, and the Republican Party are doomed in the 2000s for that. There would be no Monica Lewinsky scandal in 1998. 2000 U.S.A. election. Lunchville Trump vs. Gore Lieberman. Al Gore wins in 2000. 9/11 would happen again in 2001. And Osama bin Laden would get captured in 2003. The 2004 tsunami would still happen, and there would be no Iraq war. 2004 USA election. Gore Lieberman vs. McCain W. Bush. Al Gore wins re-election very easily with 386 electoral votes. Gore's second term would be overshadowed by the 2008 Great Recession, which would cost tens of thousands of USA lives. 2008 USA election. Kerry Lieberman vs. W. Bush Lunchville. George W. Bush is able to win in 2008. Not that much to say about George W. Bush's presidency. He is running for re-election in 2012. Democrats nominate Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Many people expect this to be very close race until W. Bush literally destroys Hillary's entire campaign by saying that she would get the country involved in World War III, which many people feel, and many of Clinton's supporters switched to support W. Bush. Let's see how it affects the election, if it does at all. 2012 USA election, W. Bush Rumsfeld vs. Clinton Obama. George W. Bush easily wins re-election, even winning states like California and Minnesota and Wisconsin, with 409 electoral votes. George W. Bush would sign the No Child Left Behind Act in 2014. And the Republicans have the problem of voting fraud, and they are doomed in 2016. 2016 USA election. Trump Pence vs. Kane Obama. Tim Kaine easily wins in 2016 with 307 electoral votes. The murder of George Floyd would still happen in 2018, and the COVID-19 pandemic would still happen in 2019. 2020 USA election, Kane Obama vs. Rubio Tillerson. Tim Kaine would win in 2020. The Gaza war would still happen in 2024. 2024 USA election. Obama-Harris vs. DeSantis-Haley. Barack Obama would win in 2024. With Obamacare, he's pretty much unbeatable in 2020 USA election. Obama-Harris vs. York and DeSantis. Barack Obama wins in 2024. 1948 Thomas Dewey. 1952 Estes Kefauver. 1956 Dwight Eisenhower. 1960 Dwight Eisenhower. 1964 Richard Nixon. 1968 Richard Nixon. 1972 Cleveland Humphrey. 1976 George McGovern. 1980 Ronald Reagan. 1984 Ronald Reagan. 1988 Richard Schweineuer. 1992 Joe Biden. 1996 Joe Biden. 2000 Al Gore. 2004 Al Gore. 2008, George W. Bush. 2012, George W. Bush. 2016, Tim Kaine. 2020, Tim Kaine. 2024, Barack Obama. 2028, Barack Obama. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.